Chapter 5 School Day. Ring, ring goes the bell. Chuck Berry. He really did deliver us from the days of old. You know, it's impossible to explain just how exciting it was to be a music-loving teenage boy in the spring of 1957. I think you had to be there. Elvis had opened those floodgates, and that tidal wave of American rock and rollers was washing right over us. It felt like there was a new star splashing down every day. More than ever, I was glued to AFN and Luxembourg every evening and weekend. Even the stuffy old BBC Light program was playing rock and roll by now. And I spent so much time, not to mention so many shillings, at Marsden's that I reckon they should probably have named a listening booth after Harry Webb. Those amazing artists just kept coming. Chuck Berry was another who blew me away as soon as I heard him. There's no question that, like Elvis and Little Richard, Chuck is one of the founding fathers of rock and roll. There is a rawness and directness to his music that thrilled me from the off, and it still does today. Like most Brits, I first heard Chuck when School Day, Ring Ring Goes the Bell, was his first British hit in 1957. I loved it, both for the power of the song and the fact that for once it actually had a lyric that I could relate to. I was 16. I'd never had my baby left me or had to move down the end of Lonely Street to Heartbreak Hotel, but I was still putting on my tie and blazer, picking up my satchel, and trudging off to Cheshunt Secondary Modern School every day. Chuck's first line, "Up in the morning and out to school." Now that I related to. Yet there was another far more crucial line in the song towards the end. Chuck sings, "Hail, hail, rock and roll, deliver me from the days of old." It sounded like a rallying call, a defiant statement that this new music was sweeping the old guard of crooners away. They had their time. This was ours. Another thing that I loved about School Day was that it sounded like Chuck was singing a duet with the guitar. He'd growl something, and it would answer him back. And that was a big influence on a lot of rock and roll to come. If I'm honest, I think my first single, Move It, definitely borrowed that same trick. In more recent years, I've performed a few Chuck numbers. I will never tire of singing Roll Over Beethoven. What a song that is. I also love to have a good go at Memphis, Tennessee. Chuck was always pretty rough-edged, and all the better for it, but that tune has a terrific melody. Chuck's great thing was always riffs, though, and School Day, Ring Ring Goes the Bell, was an absolute killer. A few years later, that guitar rhythm was to show up virtually unaltered, but with new words rebranded as No Particular Place to Go. His music blew me away in Cheshunt in 1957, and it does exactly the same now. When I recorded my Just Fabulous Rock and Roll album of rock and roll classics in 2014, I included no fewer than 3 Chuck Berry songs: Sweet Little 16, Roll Over Beethoven, and Memphis, Tennessee. And believe it or not, even Elvis only got 2. Yeah, hail, hail, rock and roll, indeed. Chuck Berry was a genius.